Well, let's now bring in our guest, Fuad Hüseynovun, Deputy Minister of the Azerbaijan State Committee for Refugees and Displaced Persons. Thank you for joining us on the programme. It's great to see you. I'd like to ask you, what does the potential end of this long-standing conflict mean for those who fled Nagorno-Karabakh 30 years ago?
Good afternoon from Azerbaijan, and thank you for having me. Restoring justice for internally displaced persons is a solid foundation for any long-term peace and stability in the region. And from that perspective, potential end of this long-standing conflict means a restoration of basic fundamental rights of internally displaced persons who have been a human face of this tragedy, which erupted as a following Armenian occupation and ethnic cleansing policy pursued by Armenian leadership. As a result, more than 700,000 people from Nagorno-Karabakh and 7 adjacent districts have been forced to flee their homes in the early 1990s and found refuge in inner parts of Azerbaijan, living in dire conditions in tent camps, rail wagons, dugouts, different types of unfinished buildings, schools, hostels, in other types of accommodation which were unsuitable for long-term human living.
Now, of course, excuse me, the territory has seen so much shelling and destruction in recent weeks. What will these people return to? I mean, what is being done or will be done to ensure the displaced citizens who do return get decent living conditions?
I would like, first of all, to state that everything in the territories which were under occupation has been destroyed, literally speaking, razed to the ground. And first thing to do will be to assess the damage which was caused to Azerbaijan economy and civilian population as a result of this devastation, and then conduct security measures to enable internally displaced persons to return. First, it's demining activities, clearing of soil, of military remnants, other chemicals, and only after that, rehabilitating and restoring infrastructure, connections, transportation, networks, and finally ending up with building residential areas so as to enable IDPs to exercise their fundamental right to return in safety and dignity. And we can see also now, even after a peace deal brokered by Russian Federation, how Armenians are leaving Kalbajar district, for instance. They are destroying everything, putting on fire all forests, killing animals, causing another ecological disaster and catastrophe in the region.
We understand that the displaced Azeris are currently receiving financial support for their refugee status. Will they continue getting any social or financial aid when they return to Nagorno-Karabakh?
Internally displaced persons in Azerbaijan are subject to different privileges and immunities, including monthly financial allowances from the state, which is meant to cover their basic food expenditures and utility fees. On top of that, IDPs are exempt from tuition fees upon admission to state universities, even on a paid basis, and these tuition fees are borne by the state on their behalf. This is in accordance with current national legislation on IDPs and refugees and social protection to them. But the government, the state authorities now will be defining, of course, new model, new legislation, which will reflect new realities after peace truce agreement brokered on the 10th of November.
The situation is still largely seen as fragile despite the truce agreement. How accurate would you say that assessment is?
As I mentioned earlier, if Armenian side will comply with all the commitments which have been adopted within the framework of tripartite agreement reached on 10th November, that will serve as a solid foundation for long-term peace and stability in the region. And we do hope that, this truce agreement will be sufficient tool to address any security precautions in the future.
Currently, Armenians are leaving the territory that is being handed over to Azerbaijan. If any of them stays, is there a risk of ethnic tensions? What will Azerbaijan do to prevent that?
Well, as President of Azerbaijan stated on numerous occasions, Azerbaijanis have no problem in living side by side with Armenians. This takes place in Russian Federation, where there is a large community of both Armenians and Azerbaijanis living side by side in Georgia, in Ukraine, and other parts of the world. So why it shouldn't be possible to coexist for these both communities in former oblast of Nagorno-Karabakh? I think this is just artificially inflicted thing, and we are sure that as President of Azerbaijan, as a guarantor of peace and security for each and every citizen of the Republic of Azerbaijan, will ensure safety and security of Armenian community if they will wish, if they will desire to live in this part as citizens of Azerbaijan, complying with national legislation of the Republic of Azerbaijan.
Fuad Hüseynov, Deputy Minister of the Azerbaijan State Committee for Refugees and Displaced Persons, thank you very much for your time today.
I thank you very much.